The conflict between Pakistan and Afghanistan reignited fiercely, turning the border into a battlefield again. In just a few days, villages were bombed, drones filled the sky, and tension grew so much that nearby powers now watched nervously, afraid of being dragged into the crossfire. The offensive began with violent airstrikes in Kandahar and Kabul, leaving dozens dead. Then came retaliations, night battles, and a short-lived truce. It feels like no one there really wants to stop fighting, and the situation is about to explode again. Inside Pakistan, the government faces militants, an economic crisis, and political pressure. On the other side, the Taliban tries to show strength on the borders and control rival groups. Each offensive has become a battle of power and ideology, leaving civilians trapped in the middle. Analysts say the Durand border is the heart of the crisis, a line where religion, history, and survival mix. Short truces hide decades-long wars, and the distrust is so deep that neither government wants to step back. Now the whole world watches another conflict that could spiral out of control at any moment. Could this clash between Pakistan and Afghanistan be the spark for something much bigger in a world already divided by global power alliances? Just a reminder, this report is based on news from Sky News, The New York Times, BBC, The Guardian, Al Jazeera, Sputnik, RT News, and Telegram. But before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription means a lot and helps you stay updated on every story about the raging nations. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help this project grow even more. After a brutal escalation, Pakistan and Afghanistan announced a 48-hour temporary truce. Troops pulled back slightly, but in regions like Kandahar and Chaman, tensions remain high, with reports of new military movements. Airstrikes hit entire districts in Kandahar and Kabul, injuring civilians and destroying homes. People accuse both sides of attacking residential areas, and fear grows among families with nowhere to run in the middle of the chaos. Since October 10th, at least 18 victims and over 360 injured were confirmed by the UN. The numbers reveal the scale of destruction and show that this new phase of the conflict might be the most intense in years. Heavy fighting spreads along the border, with artillery and infantry on both sides. Each country accuses the other of invading territory and burning villages, increasing anger and showing that the war is far from over. Experts say this is the bloodiest clash since the Taliban returned to power in 2021. And the worst part is that everything indicates new operations are being prepared behind the scenes, which could change the course of the war again. The Taliban accuses Pakistan of carrying out drone attacks in Kabul, saying civilians died in residential areas. Islamabad denies everything, but missile debris found near the airport raises tough questions and puts the Pakistani government on the defensive. In response, Afghanistan claimed to have executed 58 Pakistani soldiers in night operations. Local sources report military bases were captured and tanks destroyed, showing the war has become an open struggle for power and prestige between both sides. Pakistan acknowledged part of its losses and confirmed 23 soldiers dead. In retaliation, it launched fighter jets and destroyed Afghan positions with heavy artillery strikes. The army vowed to continue until the Taliban bases along the border are fully neutralized. The Taliban responded by promising harsh retaliation if new attacks occur. Still, they expressed willingness to hold talks mediated by neighboring countries. Their stance tries to balance national pride with the need to show diplomacy to the international community. Taliban spokesmen were clear. Any new attack will be treated as a formal declaration of war. The warning was direct and left the world on alert. Are we about to see an open war between two countries with dangerous alliances? Meanwhile, civilians are living a nightmare. Destroyed homes, crowded hospitals, and markets reduced to rubble show the scale of the tragedy. Families flee in pickup trucks, trying to escape the bombings, but escape routes remain blocked and unsafe. One of the drone attacks hit a crowded market in Kabul, igniting dozens of shops and killing civilians. Witnesses described successive explosions and a scene of terror. The population blames both the Taliban and Pakistan for completely ignoring civilian areas. The border closures have frozen trade, leaving hundreds of trucks stranded in the mountains. Food, fuel, and medicine are not reaching those in need, and desperation grows by the day. Humanitarian convoys can't pass, and logistical chaos spreads. Violence now targets even those trying to save lives. Attacks on vaccination campaigns killed health workers and police. Afraid, humanitarian teams abandon rural areas, and the risk of epidemics grows among isolated communities. The international community calls for calm, but the bombings continue. Analysts warn that if nothing changes, the conflict could expand and draw in regional powers. Will the world watch another war unfold before everyone's eyes without doing anything? Inside Pakistan, operations against the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan group remain intense. In a recent offensive, the army killed 17 militants and claimed to have eliminated one of the main regional commanders. The internal war runs parallel to the conflict with the Afghan Taliban. In North Waziristan, clashes happen almost daily. Checkpoints are attacked and drones constantly patrol the border. The mountainous terrain makes military maneuvers difficult and increases casualties on both sides, leaving soldiers exhausted and civilians terrified. Pakistan's defense minister surprised many by supporting international mediation led by Donald Trump. The proposal aims for a permanent ceasefire but faces resistance within the government, where military sectors view foreign intervention as a national humiliation. After days of fighting, Pakistan decided to close its main border crossings, including Torkham and Chaman. The blockade trapped thousands of trucks and destroyed bilateral trade. The result was a growing humanitarian crisis in the region's poorest provinces. Even with truces and negotiations, analysts say distrust runs too deep for any deal to last. Broken pacts and both governments' support for armed groups fuel a dangerous cycle. How far can this rivalry go before it explodes again? The so-called Durand Line, dividing the two countries since the 19th century, has always been unstable. Local tribes cross freely back and forth, ignoring political borders. This historical dynamic has made the region perfect for insurgencies and endless disputes. The Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan group is mainly responsible for the attacks and aims to create an Islamic state within the country. Its fighters hide in tribal areas and, according to Islamabad, receive indirect support from the Afghan Taliban, a claim strongly denied by the latter. The Taliban tries to defend itself, saying it doesn't shelter the group, but the line between allies and enemies grows blurrier. While trying to assert authority, the Afghan government sees TTP fighters crossing the mountains and attacking Pakistani bases with impunity. Both Pakistan and the Taliban face serious internal crises. On one side, explosions and urban attacks. On the other, international sanctions and the threat of the Islamic State Khorasan. It's a scenario where everyone loses, and each setback pushes the conflict further. Analysts warn that historical resentment and the rise of jihadist groups are pushing the region toward collapse. Short truces are not enough to contain the built-up hatred, and the next steps of this war could change the balance of all Asia. Analysts warn that historical resentment and the rise of jihadist groups are pushing the region toward collapse. Short truces are not enough to contain the built-up hatred, and the next steps of this war could change the balance of all Asia. The Taliban retaliated with coordinated attacks on Pakistani bases in regions like Spinboldak and Kandahar. The use of mortars and improvised drones shows the group has improved its combat capabilities and now challenges the Pakistani army on equal terms. The confrontation peaked in mid-October when Pakistani drones hit Kabul neighborhoods. The Taliban called the strike a direct act of aggression and threatened to respond with full force if any new bombing occurs. The world watches in apprehension. Under diplomatic pressure from China, Iran, and Russia, both sides agreed to a 48-hour truce. Even so, military movements continue. A single misfire could plunge the region back into chaos and crossfire. The situation becomes even more dangerous as the Islamic State Khorasan gains ground amid the conflict. Between threats, distrust, and fragile alliances, the future of this war depends on decisions made in the coming days, and one wrong move could set Asia on fire. The conflict entered a new phase, with drones and missiles becoming symbols of power. Destruction dominates entire cities, and reconstruction seems far away. Diplomatic negotiations stall as explosions keep echoing through the mountains and devastated borders. Short truces only fuel hatred. People who once traded side by side now see each other as enemies. Every death brings a new promise of revenge, and the cycle repeats endlessly, turning the border into a field of resentment and despair. China, Iran, and Russia try to prevent a regional collapse, but no one can contain the sparks. The Taliban demands full respect for its sovereignty, while Pakistan insists it only reacts to extremist attacks. Diplomacy lies in ruins. The risk of a prolonged war is growing fast. The advance of groups like the Islamic State Khorasan and the displacement of thousands of civilians threaten to collapse trade routes and spark a new refugee crisis. Does anyone still have control over what's coming? Another conflict that could trigger something much bigger. Could Pakistan and Afghanistan drag the world into another global war? In a planet divided among rival powers, any spark now could ignite the fuse of a third world war. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end of the video. You're awesome, and I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates on the raging nations. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help this project grow even more.